From Los Angeles, I'm Eddie Garcia. He is Doug Stolhand. Thanks for joining us for the Puck Podcast. It's Monday, January the 6th. Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first period of a three-period podcast. The first period, which some of you are watching on YouTube, recaps the past week in the NHL on and off the ice. Our second period is our interview or special feature segment. This week, Doug and I are going to give out our award winners if the season ended today. And our third period is our fan feedback segment where we read listener emails and talk about what's going on in our lives. You can find all three periods on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you're seeing on YouTube, please subscribe. It takes a second, but makes a huge difference as we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. At last check, we were at 765, so we're creeping up on it. But if you could subscribe, that would definitely help us. You'll get notified when our latest shows come out, like the Puck Podcast, our weekly NHL review show, the Puck Podcast Hockey Minute, a quick recap and preview of that day in the NHL, and a new feature we're excited about, our Puck Podcast reaction videos.
Eddie and I have worked in sports media for over 30 years combined and are the former voices of the Fresno Falcons Hockey Club and the Yosemite High School Badgers football team. We've also worked at Fox Sports TV, Fox Sports Radio, and NFL Network, but our passion is hockey. And we've been putting out the Puck Podcast every week but one since July of 2006. That's a streak of over 963 weeks, Eddie. That's a lot.
-1, yeah.
Over the next three periods, we're going to tell you how every NHL team did the past 7 days. We'll recap all the trades, signings, suspensions, and milestones. And as always, we cover all 32 teams equally. But we start with the biggest story in the NHL from the past week. And for that, I turned it over to my good friend, my co-host, and a man who once told me, in confidence, that if he had a time machine, he'd use it to go back and see Menudo in concert. Eddie Garcia.
Well, that is racist and incorrect.
Is it racist?
And we have no headlines this week. There wasn't any big story that we felt that was worthy enough for us to bring to your attention at the start of the show. So there are some important news and notes that we're going to pass along as we recap all the games from the past week in the NHL. Some games will be just a quick score and a note. Others we'll get more in depth into because of a certain reason. But we start 1 week ago, last Monday, where we had 3 games on the NHL schedule, and we'll start with the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers knocking off the struggling New York Rangers 5-3. Jesper Boquist scored twice for the Panthers, who entered the day leading the Atlantic Division with 48 points. New York also had lost 7 of its last 8 at that point, dropped to 4-15 in their last 19 games, and now they have also now lost star goaltender Igor Shesterkin. He allowed 4 goals on 24 shots in this one. There was a collision that he had with one of the Florida players, stayed in the game, finished it out, but later was placed on injured reserve with an upper body injury, did not play the rest of the week. Louis Domingue called up from the AHL to team up with Jonathan Quick to form the duo in net going forward for a little while for the New York Rangers.
Not ideal to be struggling and now have to go to a veteran who has obviously played very well in Jonathan Quick in his time with the Rangers, but is also not an everyday goalie, which is why he is on the New York Rangers. He was the Kings goalie. They decided we can't have him as our number one anymore. He went to Vegas. He moved on to the Rangers and has resurrected his career. But for a very short period of time, he might be able to carry the mail. But this is one that if he is going to be the guy the rest of the season, it bodes very poorly, I think. I don't think he's up to 50 starts or let's say 30 starts in a 40-game stretch. I think that's a bit much. And Louis Domingue is not the caliber, I don't think, to get the Rangers out of the basement in the East, in the Metropolitan, and back in a playoff spot. So a tough spot. Shesterkin has not been playing great, but he's still the best goalie you have, the best goalie option you have, and this is a tough loss for them.
Yeah, not expected to be out long-term, but again, obviously this isn't helping things for the Rangers. The Jets shut out the Predators 3-0. Winnipeg goalie Connor Hellebuyck made 22 saves. Gabe Vilardi had a pair of power play goals, numbers 16 and 17 for him. For Hellebuyck, he gets his NHL leading 5th shutout of the season and his 42nd career shutout. Winnipeg at that point was leading the NHL in wins with 27 and points with 55.
And Hellebuyck also becomes the first netminder in NHL history with 3 winning streaks of 6 games or more before New Year's Day. This was back on December 30th that this game was played. And with more than half the season to go, he is 1 6-game winning streak away from tying the NHL record of 4 in one season, which is held by Sergei Bobrovsky of the Panthers just back in 2021-22. In fact, almost all of these are recent numbers. The guys that he tied, Frederik Andersen, Tuukka Rask, Jonathan Quick, Frederik Andersen again, Manny Legacy, Chris Osgood, Mike Vernon, all somebody we're fairly familiar with. In fact, all of them except for Osgood and Vernon are guys that performed this, achieved this task while we were doing the show. But Bill Durnan is a name from the past that he ties as well. So 3 6-game winning streaks already this season for Connor Hellebuck. And I suspect he might be mentioned when we get to the second period awards portion of our show.
I suspect he might. The Kraken on the final game of Monday knocked off the Utah Hockey Club on the road 5-2. Seattle scored 310 goals in the third period to pull away for the win. Jaden Schwartz had a 3-point game with his 12th goal of the year, as well as 2 assists. On to Tuesday, where it was New Year's Eve, and we had 13 games on the schedule, highlighted by the annual Winter Classic. 40,933 announced attendance at Wrigley Field in Chicago, which was hosting the event for a second time. Also, 5th time a Winter Classic involved the Blackhawks, who would lose to the St. Louis Blues 6-2. Defenseman Cam Fowler had a memorable 1,000th career game. Not only was it outdoors, but he had a pair of goals as well. Jordan Kyrou added his 16th, Dylan Holloway his 14th for St. Louis. Blackhawks are now 0-5 in Winter Classic games. And Doug, I understand Wrigley Field is a cool venue. I understand the media market that is Chicago, but please, no more Blackhawks in outdoor games for a while. And also,
I think they would agree on that.
Yeah, I think they would. And also, I get that the NHL apparently didn't want to go head-to-head with 3 college football playoff games on New Year's Day, but it seems silly and counterproductive to me to have this game, one of your marquee events, on the same day as 12 other games.
Right.
So other hockey fans, now my Kings did not play on this day, but if they had, I probably would have set aside time to watch that game and maybe not set aside time to watch the Winter Classic.
Well, I can tell you my Ducks played that day, and that's exactly what I did. I'm going to watch the Ducks game.
Yeah, this is a bad idea. Have this be a standalone game on New Year's Day, regardless of whatever other events might be going on. Because if hockey fans want to watch hockey, that's the one game they're going to watch.
Correct. And have some faith in your product. Have some faith in yourself as a marquee event. Yes, there are New Year's Day games. There's a lot of stuff going on, but also there's a lot of people sitting around with nothing to do and want to watch some TV. So maybe the games, the college football games, are blowouts, which some of them were. Maybe there's just people that want to watch hockey instead of football. They're not college football fans. Regardless, and what makes it even more baffling is that there was only one game the next day. So it's not like they took New Year's Day off. They set aside for one game, but it was just a regular season game. There was nothing special about it. It was a terrible execution. First of all, it not being on New Year's Day does not make it feel special. New Year's Eve is the night everybody goes out. New Year's Day is the day everybody stays home and watches the parade, watches the games, watches this game on an annual basis. So if you're going to make it go up against other NHL games, you're going to lose your own audience. There's only, like you said, if I have a choice between watching the Winter Classic or if I'm a Penguins fan or a Red Wings fan, watching them play, it's a no-brainer. I'm not going to watch the Blackhawks in their 5th outdoor game. By the way, they stink also. It's not a good game. There's no draw. And Wrigley Field, it's not the first time I've seen an outdoor game there. It's not the first time I've seen these teams play each other. It's not the first time I've seen them play outdoors. There's nothing to draw me in to make this special. It was horribly, horribly done by the NHL to the point that it was entirely forgettable. And I had NHL fans coming up to me at work saying, I didn't even realize the game was today until I saw the score. And I said, that's not a good sign.
No, it's not. And oh, by the way, we'll see if the NHL changes because I read this was the worst rated TV broadcast of a Winter Classic ever. So
less than 1 million people. And
yes.
That's a terrible audience.
Yes.
But again, when you're fracturing your own audience, your core audience amongst the other games. Now, as for the game itself, you mentioned Cam Fowler. He did have the 2 goals. He embraced his first ever Winter Classic with a pair of them in his 1,000th career game. And the Blues became the 3rd franchise to win each of their first 3 outdoor games. The other 2 are the Rangers, who are 5-0, and the Capitals, who are 3-0. One stat for you, for people that were wondering, what are the Blues getting in this Cam Fowler guy? Well, he's the first defenseman to score twice in an outdoor game. But Cam Fowler in 17 games with the Ducks this year had no goals and 4 points and was a -7. In 11 games with the Blues, he has 4 goals and 9 points and is a +5. So they got exactly what they wanted, a solid top 4 defenseman that is contributing both offensively and defensively immediately. And it's been a great fit so far. They're very happy with it. The Ducks got a 2nd-round pick. They knew they had to trade somebody, and Fowler was the odd man out. But I'm glad it's worked out for him. He seems happy there, and I was glad to see him get his 1,000th game in a marquee event. I'm sure it felt very good to play in a marquee event, which he's never going to do with the Ducks. And to get to do that and then to come through in the big moment with the spotlight, I just wish more people had been able to see it. I wish it had been the next day.
The Wild, still without injured star Kirill Kaprizov, down the Predators 5-3 behind Marco Rossi's 2 goals, numbers 13 and 14 for him. Nashville dropped to 3-13-4 away from home this season. But in the win, Minnesota suffered another loss. Kaprizov is out, and now captain Jared Spurgeon is going to be out for a while. He was slew-footed by Nashville's Zachary Leroux. Spurgeon had to be helped off the ice, didn't return, and they're listing him now as week to week. For Leroux, this hit drew a 3-game suspension from the Department of Player Safety. Now, this is his first NHL suspension for the 21-year-old former first-round pick back in 2021. But he has had numerous suspensions before his NHL career started. He was suspended twice in the AHL for a total of 3 games and 9 times in the Quebec Maritime Junior Hockey League, resulting in 36 games missed. So all in all, 12 suspensions for 42 games for Zachary Leroux.
Do you think transgressions like that in other leagues, as developmental leagues, should be considered when the NHL Department of Player Safety looks at something like this? I realize you've got a clean slate in the NHL, but I mean, if you move to a new town, your criminal record comes with you. And if you're known as a dirty player from previous leagues, which he clearly is, do you think that should be taken into consideration?
I think when it's that egregious, yes. If it's just a 1 or 2 suspension and you want to carry that over, no. But if it's 9 times,
isn't that from Ferris Bueller?
Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, or excuse me, Maritime Junior Hockey League, they've changed it. Maybe you get an automatic suspension for, I don't know, a major penalty. I have no idea. It just seems insane that he was suspended 9 different times. So if there's something that I'm missing, I'll take that information into consideration. But just on face value, when you look at the numbers, that's ridiculous. So
yeah. And this one was
I'll put it this way. I'll be shocked if this is his only NHL suspension. I mean, he's a young guy. He's just getting started here. So
yeah. And he plays, look, he plays the way he thinks he needs to play to earn his. He's not there to score a lot of goals. He's there to bring the physical edge and certainly chip in offensively and defensively, but he's not a goon, but he's there for a physical presence. And this was, if you want to look up a definition of slew foot, this was it. He and Spurgeon are chasing a puck into the end boards. He gets even with Spurgeon, puts his arms in front of him to push his torso back while his left leg sweeps Spurgeon's legs out from underneath him,
both legs, forward. Not just one leg, both legs.
And that sends Spurgeon into the boards feet first with his full momentum while Leroux fights for the puck. It was egregious. It was a intentional act. Dirty. He was immediately jumped, and that's an earned 3-game suspension. Absolutely. So another $13,489 to the Players Emergency Assist Fund. So if you've got an emergency, players, Zachary Leroux has you covered.
This is Jacob Slavin. A pipe has burst in my house.
We're on our way. That would be a great commercial. The Players Emergency Assist Fund is here to help you with anything that life has to offer.
The Oilers snapped a mini 2-game skid with a 4-1 win over the Utah Hockey Club. It was tied 1-1. Edmonton then closed it out with 3 straight goals, capped by Leon Draisaitl's NHL leading 27th of the season. Stuart Skinner had 26 saves in net, and Connor McDavid had 2 assists to pass Mark Messier for 3rd place on the Oilers' all-time points list, now only trailing Jari Kurri and Wayne Gretzky. He's only 9 points away from Curry, so he'll catch him, but still 635 points away from the Great One.
That's a lot. It sounds like a lot, but it's not going to take him long to catch and pass him because he just had 180 points in this calendar year. So 4 years from now, 5 years from now, he could be passing him. But he had 2 assists, which concludes his 2024 calendar year with 138 assists and 180 points in 2024 regular season and playoffs. He enters 2025 riding a 12-game point streak. And with those 2 points, as you said, he surpassed Messier for 3rd most in franchise history, which is crazy that he's already there. So, and you're looking at this, he's the only other players that have had 180 points in a calendar year are Wayne Gretzky, who did it 9 times, and Mario Lemieux, who did it 3 times. Wayne Gretzky, by the way, had 252 points in the year 1983 from January 1st to December 31st. That's unbelievable. It is gobsmacking every now and then when you look at his stats and what he put up. But 180 points in 1 year is bonkers good for Connor McDavid. And if he's at that pace for 4 more years, he's going to catch and pass Wayne Gretzky in the for the most assists, I think, in the in franchise history, which was saying much. But then again, not far from now in his life, Wayne Gretzky said, "I'd like to go to LA, please." So Connor McDavid is going to play most likely his entire career or the majority of it with the Oilers, whereas Wayne Gretzky played a good portion of his career outside of Edmonton.
Flyers shut out the Sharks 4-0 behind a combined shutout from Samuel Ersson and Alexei Kolosov, who was injured. Kolosov injured in this one, had to leave after 2 periods. Just the 4th combined shutout in Flyers history. Travis Konechny added his 17th goal of the season for Philadelphia. And in a battle of the top 2 rookies in the NHL, Matvei Michkov for the Flyers, Macklin Celebrini the Sharks, both were held without a point. So anticlimactic there between the 2 young stars in the NHL. Avalanche knock off the NHL's top team, the Jets, 5-2, tied 2-2 going into the 3rd. Colorado scored 3 unanswered goals to get the win. Casey Middlestat snapped a 19-game goalless streak with the go-ahead goal. Mikko Rantanen helped seal it with his 21st of the season. And the NHL's top goalie, Winnipeg's Carter Hellebuyck, not in net for the Jets in this one. Eric Comrie getting the start.
Weird that he would not be playing in this one, right?
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, obviously they played the day before. Or no, they did not, I don't think, as I look back at this. Oh, yeah, they did. They played. He got the shutout win over the Predators. Why not have Comrie play against one of the worst teams in the league and save Hellebuyck for one of the best teams in the league? Seems like they're almost protecting him. Yeah, I mean, I don't get that. If I'm Eric Comrie, I'm like, hey, what the what? Put me in a position to succeed, coach.
The only thing that makes sense, I guess, is that it's like, let's go with our big gun and get the sure 2 points against this team. Then we'll see what happens in the other game. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, it's odd. You would think you would want the top goalie in the league against one of the top offenses in the league.
Canadians scored an upset, beating the Vegas Golden Knights on the road, 3-2, the top team in the Pacific Division, a rare loss for Vegas. Montreal was down 2-0 after the first period, scored 3 unanswered goals, including Cole Caulfield's 19th of the year, and Kirby Dach ends up with the game winner.
It's shocker indeed for that one. I mean, Vegas has been playing so well lately that to see that one go against them was very surprising, especially Montreal has not been playing great lately. That's a very surprising win.
Ducks get an upset win of their own, 3-2 over the Devils. Anaheim jumping out to a 2-0 lead. They allowed the next 2, but then Ryan Strome scored the game winner late in the 3rd period. Blue Jackets beat the Hurricanes 4-3 in a shootout. Kirill Marchenko had a pair of goals in regulation, numbers 15 and 16 for him. Kent Johnson and Adam Fantilli scored in the shootout for Columbus. Capitals beat the Bruins 3-1. No goals for Alexander Ovechkin in this one, but Alexi Protas had 2 goals, numbers 15 and 16 for him. And Jacob Chychrun scored a goal, his 11th of the season. At that time, he was tied for the most goals scored amongst defensemen in the NHL. Logan Thompson, 26 saves in net. He's now 15-2-2 on the season after that victory.
That's good.
It's not bad. Not bad. I'm pretty sure that the Capitals weren't expecting that in his first year with the team.
No, and as we talked about, they're spending less than $2 million total on their goaltending.
That's great value, ladies and gentlemen. Maple Leafs down the Islanders 3-1 to move into a tie with idle Florida atop the Atlantic Division. Toronto goalie Joseph Woll, 30 saves in net. John Tavares gets his 19th of the season. He's having a nice year with the Maple Leafs. Red Wings beat the Penguins 4-2. JT Compher's power play goal in the third period was the game winner. Dylan Larkin added his 15th of the season, and new Detroit head coach Todd McClellan picks up his 600th career NHL win. For Pittsburgh, their 2 goals both scored by Drew O'Connor in a loss.
Well, the Red Wings, and we're going to talk about them as the week continues, certainly looking like a different team so far under McClellan. The spark that they were hoping for when they made that coaching change has been provided, and the team looks completely re-energized and playing with a whole new purpose. They're unrecognizable. If you look at this game and you go back just 10 days and watch a game under the previous head coach, it's night and day. Derek Lalonde was just not getting this effort out of this team.
Stars down the Sabres 4-2. Wyatt Johnston's third period goal was the difference. Rope Hentz added his 16th for Dallas. And the Flames beat the Canucks 3-1. Nazem Kadri's 14th of the season was the game winner. Jonathan Huberdeau's 16th sealed it. And rookie goalie Dustin Wolf made 23 saves in net in the win for Calgary. On to Wednesday, one game on New Year's Day. That was my Kings shutting out the Devils 3-0 behind a 33-save performance from goalie Darcy Kemper. Adrian Kempe gets his team-leading 18th of the year. And Quentin Byfield, the second overall pick in 2020, gets his 9th goal of the year, but he's got 6 goals in his last 8 games as he's finally starting to heat up after a slow start. And Andre Lee scored his first NHL goal. I will admit I have been negligent in pointing out players who have scored their first NHL goals when we do this. I'm going to make sure I try and do that going forward. Before the Kings, 8 straight home wins. They're 13-2-1 on home ice this year. For the Devils, 6th time they've been shut out this season.
And you mentioned the Kings. Funny that we're starting the rookie or the first goal thing with a Kings rookie, Andre Lee, getting his
coincidence.
First one. But the Kings do have the league's top home record right now. 844 is their winning percentage on home ice, 13-2-1. The only time they've ever finished a complete season with a home point percentage over 80% was 2012-2013, the year in between their 2 Stanley Cups. So it did not end in glory for them, but was in between 2 very good years.
We go from 1 game on Wednesday to 12 games on Thursday as the Metropolitan Division leading Capitals lost to the Wild 4-3 in a shootout. In the loss, though, Washington star Alexander Ovechkin scored on the power play for his 18th goal in 22 games this season. That's career goal number 871, moving him 24 away from Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. As for Minnesota in the win, Marco Rossi scored his 15th of the year in the third period to tie it, and then Matt Boldy scored the only goal in the shootout to win it for Minnesota. As for Ovechkin, 41 goals in 66 career games, including playoffs, against future Hall of Famer Marc-Andre Fleury, although Fleury did stone Ovi in the shootout to preserve the victory.
And if you want to know, where does that compare all time? Well, it's the most by any player against a single goalie in NHL history since the expansion era in 1967. He was tied with Brett Hull, who had 40 goals against Tim Cheveldaev back in the day. Now, Alexander Ovechkin, 41 against Marc-Andre Fleury, the most by any player versus one goalie. He also became the 5th skater in NHL history to reach 20 regular season goals against 18 different franchises, meaning he has scored 20 goals against the Wild, against the Flyers, against 18 different franchises. The only other people that have done that, it's an illustrious list. Wayne Gretzky, of course. I mean, you could just, of course, yes. that's the free space on the bingo card.
Yes.
Marcel Dion, Mike Gartner, and Luc Robitaille, believe it or not. How about that? So Alexander Ovechkin, 41 goals against one goalie. And as you said, against a Hall of Famer. He's not pumping them past some backup. But also 18 different franchises. He has 20 goals against, and he doesn't play the Wild very often. This is not a team that he's played. They're not in the conference This is a team he plays 2, maybe 3 times a year, and he's got 20 goals against them. That's amazing.
You talked about me getting in my time machine to go see Menudo. If I did have a time machine, I may have mentioned this before. If there was one hockey player I could go back and watch, it would be Marcel Dion, who you mentioned on that list. A Kings legend, a Hall of Famer, and I have barely seen any highlights of him. It's just
it is amazing. And I've been to, I don't go to a lot of Kings games, but I did back when we had, media credentials and I was more available to go. It was always amazing to me how little they paid homage to that Triple Crown line. The fact that I couldn't name you the third guy, Dave Taylor, Marcel Dion, and I don't know who, is one thing, but you would think in the opening they would show more highlights of those guys as part of the Kings history, and just was not the case. And I think they're underrepresented for guys that Marcel Dion was incredibly good.
Yeah, you mentioned, as we do these shows, you've mentioned his name numerous times when we come across these ridiculous stats.
Yep.
Charlie Simmer, by the way, is the other guy.
There we go.
Hurricanes knocked off the defending Stanley Cup champion Panthers in Florida 3-1. Defenseman Jacob Slavin scores the game winner in the third period, while goalie Pyotr Kochetkov had 26 saves in net. On the Slavin game winner, Florida's Matthew Tkachuk made contact with Carolina's Jesperi Kotkaniemi. He went feet first into Panthers goalie Sergei Bobrovsky. Then Tkachuk pinned Kotkaniemi to the ice in the crease like it was a wrestling match. He wouldn't let him get up. Slavin then scored on a distracted Bobrovsky who had lost his stick. And the referees made the call that Tkachuk wouldn't let the guy up. So basically, there's no goalie interference. There's no issue. If you don't you have to let the player up. If you don't, then there's no rules violation there, and that turned out to be the game-winning goal.
I didn't think this should have been the game-winning goal. One, I get that Tkachuk was on top of him, but Kotkaniemi showed no effort to get up and get out.
I don't know. He tried to get up. The guy's laying on top of him. He
laid there, because why would he get out of there? He's got somebody on top of him and he's in no hurry to get out of the crease. He knows he's a distraction to the goalie. So he was not trying to get up. I'm watching the video right now and he's laying on his back and not putting up any effort. He's just looking around like, hey, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, he was like he's just laying there with his hand under his chin going, what's going on, guys?
He's literally laying. I mean,
what's Tkachuk doing? What's Tkachuk doing in the video?
Tkachuk is pushing him down.
Yeah,
but
he's
there's
not
no
letting
resistance.
him up.
There was no effort to get up. He's not stopping him from getting up. He's pushing him while he's down.
I don't know.
And he also, I don't know that he was necessarily drawn into the goalie without any recourse. Yes, there was some contact from Tkachuk at above the faceoff dots, but I don't think it was enough to wipe the guy's feet out from under him, and then he's just helpless. I thought this one should have probably been waved off, but as we know with goalie interference, and we're going to hear more from another team, we don't know what goalie interference is. None of the players do. The league doesn't. The fans don't. There's no consistency in what we see. And for whatever reason, this one was just decided, we're going to let this go. And the game-winning goal ended up, luckily it's a regular season game. If this was a game in the playoffs, it would be a whole bigger kettle of fish to have to deal with. But I didn't think this goal should have counted.
I disagree with you, and also I'm sure Matthew Tkachuk being involved didn't help matters for the Florida Panthers in that one. The Maple Leafs beat the Islanders 2-1. Bobby McMahon scoring both goals for the Leafs, including the game winner in the third period. Joseph Woll made 32 saves in net with that win, and Florida's loss to Toronto, Florida's loss. Toronto moved 2 points up on the Panthers for first in the Atlantic Division. Avalanche won their sixth in a row, outlasting the Sabres 6-5 in overtime. Cale Makar had a pair of goals as he took over sole possession of the goal-scoring league amongst defensemen with 13. Mikko Rantanen added his 22nd of the year. Defenseman Devon Toews scored the overtime game winner. Colorado's Nathan MacKinnon, the NHL leading scorer, had 3 assists to give him 64 points, including 50 assists in 39 games. Buffalo's Jason Zucker had a hat trick in the loss. This was the second time this season Buffalo had a big lead and ended up losing to Colorado. They had a 4-0 lead at home on December 3rd, lost in regulation. This one they had a 3-0 lead in and lost. Oh, by the way, grandma fiddler game of the week for me on this one. Doug, there was also controversy in this one we'll get to in a moment, but anything you want to add about a wild game, another wild game between the Sabres and Avalanche?
Well, the Sabres definitely poked the bear. You mentioned they had a little bit of unfinished business, having a 4-0 lead and blowing it on home ice. They come to Colorado, they get another big lead, but it was not without controversy that I think sparked the Avalanche to make sure they came back and won this game. But I want to talk about Nathan MacKinnon first. With his 3 assists in just 39 games, as you mentioned, league leading 50th assist of the season, the first active player to have 50 assists in less than 40 games. The previous mark for any active player was 43, set by Nikita Kucherov back in 2018, 2019. And he's just the 6th different player in NHL history to have 50 assists in fewer than 40 games. Of course, the free space, Wayne Gretzky did it 10 effing times in 26 games was his best. Mario Lemieux, Adam Oates, Denny Savard, and Bobby Orr are the others. But what a season Nathan MacKinnon is having with 50 assists in 39 games, including 3 in this one to help his team get a big 2 points on home ice to start 2025. But let's get into the controversy. And I thought if anybody watches on YouTube, and I hope they do, I thought Eddie did a great job with his instant reaction video to this controversial moment.
Well, thank you for that. But there was a controversial play, at least to some controversial. The Avalanche lost their goaltender, Scott Wedgewood, their number 2 goalie who was starting in this game, when Buffalo's Zach Benson was contacted from behind, going to the net by Colorado's Parker Kelly. Benson fell into the back of Wedgewood's legs, injuring him. Wedgewood was laying on his back in the crease. The Sabres maintained possession of the puck and seconds later scored into basically a net that wasn't defended. Avs head coach Jared Bednar was upset after the game, said the NHL has to blow the play dead as soon as the goalie is hurt, regardless of the circumstances of how he got hurt. Bednar also challenged the play for goalie interference, which was denied. Wedgewood now week to week. As Doug mentioned, I did our first ever Puck Podcast reaction video to this play, something Doug and I hope to do more of in the future. If you saw that, you heard my thoughts. Doug, let's get your thoughts on the play and Jared Bednar's comments.
I thought it was exactly right what you said. I mean, you've got a defenseman that launched the player into his own goalie. So that's number one. So that's why there's no goalie interference, in my opinion, because the defenseman rides Benson right into the back of Wedgewood's legs. So if you've got a beef, take it up with your defenseman for riding the guy into the back. Second, the Sabres can maintain possession of the puck. I'm not going to blow the play dead while the opponent has the puck in the offensive zone. If it's the neutral zone, sure. If it's the defensive zone and they have the puck and your goalie gets injured, sure. But when the other team, the opponent has the puck in the offensive zone and the goalie gets injured as a result of his own teammates' actions, we're not blowing the play dead. And if we were to do that every time the NHL, let's not pretend like goalies wouldn't fake injuries to get a stoppage in play and get a line change and get a face-off in the offensive or the defensive zone. So we can't open that can of worms because goalies would abuse it, and we know they would. So it's unfortunate. I get why the Avalanche were pissed, but it was the right call. And great effort by the Sabres to win that puck battle in the corner and retain possession. Great job by one of Benson's teammates to take the bullet for him, the James Brady, because it's one of those guys, I think it was Girard, was coming after him from behind. He's celebrating the goal, and Samuel Girard's like, I'm going to effing break this guy's face. And here comes one of his teammates, Benson, I think barely felt it and was like, woohoo, I scored. Meanwhile, there's a huge fight going on literally right behind him. So good job by one of his teammates to avoid that. But I thought this was absolutely the right call by the NHL. And I thought Jared Bednar, if the roles were reversed, would have felt the exact opposite. I get that he's defending his guys. You kind of have to as a head coach. You hate to see one of your players get hurt. But this was the right call, in my opinion. And I echo your opinion from the reaction video. I thought this was, I thought the NHL got this one exactly right.
Yeah, and I think a couple things that he said, I understand where he's coming from. I think Jared Bednar is a hell of a coach, and I
Yes.
respect his knowledge. I think he's sticking up for his guy here. I don't know that he really believes that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that's what this was, which we see coaches say things that maybe they don't believe, but they've got their guys back and blah, blah, blah. But he said a couple of things. One of them, he said that because there was an expectation of a scoring chance for Buffalo was part of it, right? And you're not going to take that away from them because, as you said, your player did something to cause the player to go down,
right?
And because the Sabres maintained possession of the puck. He says that shouldn't matter, which is wrong. He also said that in other situations, the referees always blow the play dead when someone's hurt. That's not true. And as a matter of fact, it happened the same night, which we're going to tell you in a minute, where the referees didn't blow it dead. But if it is a judgment call by the referees. Now, if they see a player who they think is in serious medical distress,
right?
They
if we're
will
talking a
blow
Clint
the whistle.
Millard shot,
yes, they're going to blow the whistle.
Yeah,
but that wasn't the case. With all due respect to Scott Wedgewood, yes, he was seriously hurt. He had to be helped off the ice, but he wasn't. His life wasn't in danger.
Right.
So they're going to let that play out, and it sucks. I think Bednar said something like, what if the puck would have gone to the point? Are they going to let a guy fire 100-mile-an-hour slap shot at the net with the goalie laying like that? Well, that didn't happen, so we won't know. But the answer is probably yes. I mean, that it sucks, but it's rare. But I thought they got it right.
Yeah, it is it's one of those things that you hate to see, but it's the right call because again, it would be abused.
It would
unfairly if they were to err on the other side. If they were to say, stop the play, Benson's goal is off the board, that's not fair to the Sabres because they didn't have anything to do with the injury other than being the force that caused it, but the guy got pushed right into him. It's just a weird circumstance and it's unique, but I think the NHL got this one right. I think they got the Panthers Hurricanes one wrong, got this one right. Thumbs up to this one, thumbs down to that one.
I got 2 thumbs up. The Rangers edge the Bruins 2-1 in a battle of original 16s. Jonathan Quick, the new goalie for number one goalie for the Rangers with a Shesterkin injury, 32 saves, career win number 399. He's looking to become the 15th goalie in NHL history to reach the 400 win mark.
I listened to this game on the Rangers radio network, and I got to say, I was very impressed by the support and the energy the MSG faithful had at the very beginning. This is a team that has been absolutely awful for about a month, and they come out on home ice without their number one goalie. I was expecting a quiet reception, if not maybe some boo birds, but it sounded like they were a first place team, and they got the first goal. They got the second goal. They rode the home crowd and their defense and goaltending from there. I was impressed that the crowd was behind them after such a awful month, and the trade rumors that we're hearing coming out of there. I was expecting a different reception. I was impressed by that.
Your Ducks get another nice win, knocking off, oh, by the way, at the time, the top team in the NHL, the Winnipeg Jets, 4-3 in overtime. Radko Gudas tied it with a late goal, a point shot with the extra attacker. And then Troy Terry's second goal of the game was the overtime game winner. In the loss, Mark Scheifele did get his 23rd goal of the season for Winnipeg.
You know, I mentioned last week that lost a lot of the joy of watching sports.
Yeah, I seem to remember that.
I will say this, that Troy Terry 2-on-1 snipe, that got me out of my seat.
There you go.
I was like, when I saw him going, I'm like, come on. And there was a controversial non-call in the background, and it's like, let it go, score, hot damn. Just a gutty win from a team on the road that I did not expect. So that was a fun one to watch.
Lightning were knocked off by the Sharks 2-1. Mario Ferrero gets the game winner, and Tyler Toffoli is 15th of the year for San Jose. Yaroslav Askarov, 25 saves and net in the win. By the way, this was the game I was talking about where Victor Hedman took a puck to the head. He got screened by a teammate as the puck was lofted down the ice about eye level. And as soon as it kind of went by his teammate, he didn't see it till the last second, turns his head. It hits him in the ear. He goes down like he's shot. He's bleeding on the ice. Guess what the referees did? Play on. The Sharks had a breakaway, and they let him take the shot. And Andre Vasilevsky made the save. The puck goes in the corner, and that's when they blew the whistle. So they weren't going to take away the scoring chance for San Jose, even though a player was hurt. So to Jared Bednar, who says they always call that, they always blow it dead. No, they don't. They didn't in this case. And again, unfortunate for Victor Hedman, but it was the right call.
So, and exactly right. Like you said, if it's not life-threatening and the other team has a scoring chance as a result, and in the Ducks game, it was the net coming off the moorings. Defensive collision in front of the Ducks net comes off. Well, the puck's going the other way, so that's not relevant right now. The Ducks have the puck going the other way. If and when the Jets get it, we'll blow the whistle and stop the play to get the net back on. But they have a right to their scoring opportunity, and it was never relevant. So, the officials, we criticize them a lot for a lot of things. They get that right more often than not, of knowing when a team has a legitimate scoring chance and letting the play finish before they stop the play to address an equipment malfunction, an ice issue that is not relevant to the play itself, or an injured player that is not life-threatening, as you said.
Pacific Division leading Golden Knights win again, downing the Flyers 5-2. Vegas breaking the game open with 3 goals in the second period. It included Pavel Dorofeyev's 14th of the season. Vegas had won 11 of 13 at that point. Red Wings got by the Blue Jackets 5-4 in Columbus. Jonathan Berggren scored with 36 seconds left on a breakaway to win it. And props to Detroit's Tyler Mott. He was out there on the penalty kill. Berggren comes out of the box. He dives to bat the puck down the ice to Berggren, who gets the breakaway and scores. Awesome play by Tyler Mott. Alex DeBrincat gets his 16th, Dylan Larkin his 14th, and James Van Riemsdyk, I did not know he was still in the league, had 2 goals in the loss for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, right.
JVR still hanging in there.
It's like week 18 here in the NFL. You saw a lot of names that you forgot were in the NFL with the guys, everybody playing their backups. But I think, we know that Berggren got the game-winning goal, but you got to think Tyler Mott probably got the big nacho hat in the locker room for making that extra effort play, because that set it up. And without that, Berggren doesn't have the breakaway to score it. So beauty play by him. And a very fun game to watch between two teams that are fighting for respectability in the Eastern Conference and making progress. These are two teams that have been taken lightly by a lot of teams. They're problems for teams right now. Detroit looks completely different, as I said, and they are feeling it right now as they make a run back up the Eastern Conference standings.
Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts, but as we've seen, the coaching bump is a real thing right now in the Motor City.
Yeah.
Stars beat the Senators 4-2. Rope Hintz, 2 goals, 17 and 18 for him. Matt Duchene added his 15th for Dallas. In the loss, Brady Tkachuk gets his 17th for Ottawa.
Stars are very quietly going about their business in the Central, not drawing a lot of headlines, not having any crazy stats, but a good team, 23-13-1 at this point. Solid team, going to make the playoffs, going to be a factor before it's all said and done.
Kraken, the Canucks edged the Kraken in Seattle 4-3 in a shootout. Vince Dunn scored with 53 seconds left to get it beyond regulation and get Seattle a point, but Vancouver's JT Miller scores the winner in the shootout. In that victory, Canucks number 1 goalie Thatcher Demko left the game with back spasms, didn't return. They're saying he's day-to-day. Kevin Lankinen came on in relief and ended up getting the win. And the Utah Hockey Club beat the Flames in Calgary 5-3. Lawson Krause scored a pair of goals. Clayton Keller gets his 14th of the season. Utah snapping a 5-game losing streak with that victory. On to Friday, where we had 5 games, and the Oilers get by the Ducks 3-2. Leon Draisaitl, NHL leading 28th goal of the season. He wins it with 1:35 to go in that one.
And he extends his point streak to 13 games. The Ducks had a great effort. This was the second night of back-to-back on the road. They played in Winnipeg. Then they go to Edmonton. Those are two very good teams to play on a short road trip. And if you know anything about Canadian geography, those cities are not close to each other. So that's not a short trip either. But coming off the energy of the comeback win against Winnipeg the night before, they put in a great effort. I thought they deserved a point. They didn't get it. But Leon Draisaitl, as you mentioned, 28 goals already this season, a 5-goal lead atop the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy race at this point.
Predators shut out the Canucks 3-0. Nashville's UC Saros, 27 saves in net in the win. Steven Stamkos gets his 12th goal of the season. Vancouver was missing several players due to injury. Defenseman Quinn Hughes is out. We talked about Thatcher Demko. Kevin Lankinen allowed just 1 goal on 17 shots, but Nashville scored 2 empty net goals to seal the victory. Blues shut out the Senators 4-0. Brandon Saad, the subject of trade rumors, had 3 goals for the hat trick, goals 5, 6, and 7. Jordan Bennington, 30 saves for his 18th career shutout. For Ottawa, that was game 8 of their 9-game road trip. They are now 4-4 overall, but 2-4 since goalie Linus Ullmark went down with injury. He is out indefinitely with a back injury, and now there's talk of pulling him out of the Four Nations face-off as one of the netminders for Sweden.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Panthers knocked off the Penguins 3-2 in a shootout. Matthew Tkachuk scores his 14th of the year. Sam Reinhart and Anton Lundell score in the shootout. In the loss, Rickard Rakell gets his 18th of the season for Pittsburgh, scored with 39 seconds left to get Pittsburgh a point out of it. Brian Rust recorded his 400th career point in his 600th career game. And the Blackhawks knock off the Canadiens 4-2. Nick Foligno had 2 goals, and goalie Arbor Soderblom 38 saves in net to help Chicago snap a 5-game skid. We had a Cole Caulfield in this one, 20 goals on the season now for Montreal. But we had a battle of brothers in this one. Montreal's Kirby Dach squaring off against his younger brother, Colton Dach, who made his NHL debut for Chicago. Kirby an assist, Colton no points in his NHL debut.
I knew that even with the sound off. I had the game on and the sound was off, and I saw them taking the pictures at center ice before the game as they came over and met at center ice and then posed in front of each benches, first for one team's photographer, then for the other team's photographer, and then in the middle for probably a family photographer, and then give each other a little tap on the backside and good luck, go get them. And if I see you in the corner, I'm going to knock you on your ass.
Just like we probably did growing up on the pond.
100%, 100%. And what a trip it's got to be to grow up playing against your brother, as you said, in the driveway, in the street, on the pond, in junior leagues, and then to see each other in the NHL at the biggest stage.
Imagine
for 2 original
parents,
6 teams. Yeah, I mean, my goodness, what a great moment for the Dach family.
Saturday, always a busy day. You had 12 games on the schedule, and the Capitals rough up the Rangers 7-4. Washington star Alexander Ovechkin scored his 19th goal in 23 games, career goal number 872. He's now 23 away from Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. He's got 4 goals in 5 games since returning from injury. Connor McMichael and Alexei Protas added their 17th goals of the year. Rangers goalie Jonathan Quick allowed 6 goals on 27 shots, remained at 399 career victories. But back to Ovechkin, based on his average goals per game this season, he's now on pace for 55 goals. If he can keep this pace up, which at this point I'm not prepared to say he can't because this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But he's projected to break the record March 15th in San Jose. Now, the previous game, he's in LA. So I'm going to make sure I'm out there if he's close to maybe see some NHL history. March 18th through the 22nd, 3 home games for the Capitals. So it would be nice, obviously, to see him may break the record on home ice, but just ridiculous. I mean, he starts off on fire. He gets hurt. We're like, okay, it's going to take him a little while to get back into the swing of things. Nope. He's even hotter since he's returned than he was when he left. It's insane. I don't know if he's been like re-energized by this quest or what, but it's unbelievable.
I mean, look, he's got 19 goals in 23 games this season. And if you had told me before the season he would have 19 goals all season, I would think, yeah, I get that. That's about right. I mean, that's a low number, but he's an older man. For him to have it through 23 games is bonkers. I don't think he can keep this pace up. I don't think he'll be anywhere close to beating the record when he comes to California for that road trip. But this is not investment advice. So take this with a grain of salt and make your own decisions with your wallet. I think it's worth buying some tickets to Capitals road games in the later part of this season with the hopes of reselling them for lucrative prices if he's anywhere near it.
Don't think people haven't already thought about that.
My goodness, what do you think a Capitals Sharks ticket is going for? And if he's on the cusp of breaking the record, Well, I'm going to put $5,000 on the table and
Hell,
see who buys it.
depending on what day it is, I might drive up for that.
Right. For sure. It is amazing how well he is playing at this age and as you said, with an injury in between the two. It's not like he was out with a sickness or his family was having an
No, he
issue.
had a broken leg.
Yeah, and he came back and he's red hot. Unbelievable.
Needs to break his other leg.
His shooting percentage is 21.6%. I don't know that that's sustainable.
Probably not, but he's making a believer out of me. If I ever doubted him before, I mean, it's insane.
100%. He's going to break the record.
Yes.
But I don't think it's going to be this
well,
year. I still don't think he's got 23 more goals than him.
I didn't think he was going to, but at this point, I'm starting to believe.
Yeah.
Maple Leafs down the Bruins 6-4. Matthew Nyes, a 5-point night with 3 goals, hat trick, 12, 13, and 14 on the season, plus 2 assists. Mitch Marner also had a 5-point game with a goal and 4 assists, 14th goal of the season for him. And Austin Matthews, oh, by the way, back from injury, gets his 12th goal of the season to go along with 2 assists. In the loss for Boston, David Pastrnak, a pair of goals, numbers 14 and 15.
They're starting to do a little bit of load management with Austin Matthews. Have you noticed that, Eddie, where he's not playing every night? And if he does play, he's playing limited minutes. I think he only played 17 minutes in this game. They're trying to, which I think is concerning if I'm a Maple Leafs fan, because you need him to be an impact player in the playoffs if you're going to go deep. I get that Mitch Marner is having a nice season. I get that John Tavares is having a nice season. You want to know why they're having nice seasons? It's a contract year for both of them. They are going to get new contracts this coming summer. So there's extra motivation for them to go out there and make sure they're getting their points. That said, Mitch Marner has been a fantastic player his whole career. And he and, as you said, Matthew Nyes had 5 points each. They're the third Maple Leafs duo to have 5 points in the same game the past 40 years. The other two were Marner again and Michael Bunting back in 2022, and Kyle Wellwood and Alexei Ponikarovsky back in 2006. We were covering that game here on this Puck podcast. My God. Marner's 5th point of the night was also his 42nd assist of the season. Only Doug Gilmour had more for the Maple Leafs through their first 40 games of a season. And he passes Gilmour and Sil Apps, both with 4, to move into a tie with Babe Dye for second most 5-point outings in franchise history. The only person that has had more is Daryl Sittler. Among active players, if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing the board. He is on the list of most 5-point games among active players. Connor McDavid has had 11 of them, ridiculous number. Nathan McKinnon has had 9. Evgeny Malkin, 8, Nikita Kucherov, 7, Sidney Crosby, 6, Brad Marchand and Leon Draisaitl also 6, and then Mitch Marner, Jonathan Huberdeau, Artemi Panarin, and Elias Pettersson, all with 5-point games. Mitch Marner is going to get paid this summer, man. I don't know which team is going to sign him, but this guy is an elite playmaker. He is showing it again, and he's going to make absolutely lucrative contract. And John Tavares, at 34, potentially 35 next season, he's going to get a big contract based on the way he's been playing this season as well.
My Kings edge the Lightning 2-1 for their 9th straight home win. Adrian Kempe gets the game winner. He has a team-leading 19 goals now on the season. Darcy Kemper, another win, 33 saves in net. Trevor Lewis for LA, by the way, played his 1,000th career game. Kings are 12-2-2 in their last 16 games, 14-2-1 now on home ice. The Sharks, Blackhawks, and Predators don't have 14 wins all season. The Kings have 14 at home. And I will say Darcy Kemper has been really good for the Kings this year. The trade to Washington for Pierre-Luc Dubois, everything I've heard is that the Capitals are very happy with what he's been giving them. So a trade that has worked out well for both teams, that Kemper-Pierre-Luc Dubois trade so far in the offseason.
Yeah, and those are the ones you like to see. You don't want either team to feel like they got screwed or feel bitter about it. That makes for good trade partners going forward as well. When you pick up the phone, hey, last time we did business worked out for both of us. Let's see if we can help each other again.
Well, as well as the Kings have played, they have not gained any ground in the Pacific Division as far as trying to catch the Golden Knights, because Vegas picks up another win. They beat the Sabres 3-1. Mark Stone gets his 10th of the season, and that was his 600th career point. It was the game-winning goal as well. Jack Eichel added his 11th. Aiden Hill, 23 saves in net, as Vegas improved to 16-3-1 in their last 20 games. They pick up their NHL leading 33rd point of the season, so they passed Winnipeg for the most points in the NHL now.
33rd point?
Did I get that wrong?
Yeah, they're much higher than 33.
Okay.
They are at, let me double check here. It's got to be in the 60s. They're
63
at 57.
maybe?
57.
Okay. Maybe at
27,
the time,
9, and 3.
Apologies for that, but I know they did take over the NHL points lead with that victory. For Buffalo and the loss, Jason Zucker is 15th of the year. We've talked about it numerous times. Seems like they're flying under the radar, but right now your Vegas Golden Knights, and we'll give you the stats coming up as far as the standings, leading the NHL in points.
And Mark Stone, for him to get his 600th career point, he seems like a guy that's been around forever because he's a veteran, but he's only played 665 games. You mentioned Trevor Lewis playing in 1,000. That's over 300 games more than Mark Stone has played in his career. So 600 points in 665 games, a damn good point per game ratio for Mark Stone. When he's on the ice, he is a high impact player. And it's amazing. He's got 33 points in 25 games this year. He's been fantastic for him. If once he gets his annual injury to let them make a trade at the deadline, it's going to be a big impact for the Vegas Golden Knights. I kid because I hate them. And we know that they've subverted the cap multiple times with him in the past, but they are on a heater. And I think now that they're the top team in the league, that whole under the radar thing is going to go away real quick, because they're going to be, as they come into play, every team's broadcast is going to be, here we are to play the number one team in the league, the top team in the standings. This is a tough competition. This is a measuring stick for this team. So Vegas is going to start getting teams best for sure if they haven't already.
Stars got by the Utah Hockey Club 3-2 in overtime. Defenseman Thomas Harley scores the overtime game winner for Dallas. In the loss for Utah, Matias Michelli had a pair of goals. There are only 2 goals. Utah had lost 6 of 7 at that point. Oilers beat the Kraken in Seattle 4-2. Edmonton jumped out to a 3-0 lead. Leon Draisaitl, NHL leading 29th goal of the season, to seal it and extend his point streak to 14 games. That is the longest point streak this season, and also tied his career longest point streak. Oilers had won 11 of 14 at that point. So your top 3 teams in the Pacific, Vegas, LA, and Edmonton, all playing some very good hockey right now.
Yeah.
Wild blank the Hurricanes 4-0. Minnesota goalie Philip Gustafsson, 20 saves in net in the shutout. Matt Boldy gets his 14th of the year for Minnesota. Sharks knock off the Devils 3-2. Cody Ceci scores with 25 seconds left to win it for San Jose. And number 1 overall pick, Macklin Celebrini, gets his 13th goal of the season. In the loss for New Jersey, Nico Hischier, his 19th of the season.
And that completes a California road trip that saw the Devils beat the Ducks, but come up short against the Kings and Sharks. And Macklin Celebrini, the 10th active player with at least 28 points through their first 30 NHL games, following Elias Pettersson, Connor McDavid, Alexander Ovechkin, Yevgeny Malkin, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Sidney Crosby, Patrick Kane, Cale Makar, and Artemi Panarin all went on to have incredible careers. So Macklin Celebrini, again, 10th active player with at least 28 points through his first 30 games. He's got 13 goals and 28 points through those games. He also became the 6th 18-year-old in the past 50 years to score at least 13 goals through their first 30 games. The others, Patrick Laine, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Sidney Crosby, Ilya Kovalchuk, and Trevor Linden. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're looking at this picture of him right here on this list. But first of all, by the way, the free space is the number 1. Most points through first 30 career games, Wayne Gretzky with 46. But look at how young he looks in that picture. It looks like a kid coming out to drop the ceremonial first puck. It's unbelievable how young this guy is and how good he is already. This is certainly the future is teal for him. Man, they got a good one on him. He is off to a tremendous start and is only going to get better as he gets more comfortable and the game starts slowing down for him and as his teammates improve around him. The Sharks got a great one in Macklin Celebrini for sure.
He looks young because he is young. He's just
That's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like 8 years ago, I was in my 40s. He was 10. That's ridiculous.
Red Wings continue to play well of late. They beat the Jets 4-2. Dylan Larkin, 2 goals, numbers 15 and 16. Alex DeBrincat added his 17th. Lucas Raymond his 16th. Detroit now 4-1 at this point under new head coach Todd McClellan. For Winnipeg Star goalie Connor Hellebuck remains stuck at 299 career wins with a couple of losses for the Jets.
Yeah, a little bit of a tough stretch here for Winnipeg, but Detroit, man, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm not saying they're going to go on a run like St. Louis and win the cup, but their playoff hopes are absolutely alive. That pulse is beating in Detroit right now, and Hockeytown is starting to feel it.
Yeah, we'll see how long it lasts. We've seen these bumps before, but can they sustain it? I'm also guessing, I haven't looked in the old email inbox, but I'm guessing we've got some Red Wings fans checking in this week. Canadians edge the Avalanche in Colorado 2-1 in a shootout. Cole Caulfield scores his 21st of the year in regulation, adds another in the shootout. Rookie goalie Jakub Dobeš, 22 saves to improve to 2-0 in his young career. He's allowed a total of 2 goals in 2 starts, and he looked impressive in this one. Mikko Rantanen had the lone Colorado goal, his 23rd of the year. And that was Colorado's first loss of the season in overtime or shootout.
And the two teams he's beaten, Jakub Dobeš, the Panthers and the Avalanche. My goodness, the Jets are protecting Connor Hellebuck by not having him play the Avalanche. The Canadians are throwing him out there against the Stanley Cup champs and the top offensive team in the league. My goodness, what a test, and he has come through with flying colors.
In a game that featured 8 goals in the third period, 5 goals in 3 minutes and 40 seconds, the Blues outlast the Blue Jackets 6-4.
Other way around, Blue Jackets won that game.
Well, somebody with Blues in their name won. The Blue Jackets beat the Blues 6-4. Dmitry Voronkov, 2 goals, 14 and 15. Kirill Marchenko, his 17th. Columbus 5-2-1 in their last 8. In the loss for St. Louis, Jordan Kyrou gets his 17th. And the Predators beat the Flames in Calgary 4-1. Ryan O'Reilly, 3 goals for the hat trick for Nashville. Goals 10, 11, and 12. Justus Anonen in net, 31 saves in the victory.
They're playing better. They just have such a deep hole to get out of.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as you mentioned, a lot of the teams that they are chasing are also playing well. But we're going to get to the standings. I got a little some hope for teams that are on the outside looking in the playoffs right now.
And we'll wrap it up with Sunday's action. 9 games on the schedule. The Ducks defeat the Lightning 4-1 to keep Doug interested in sports for a little while longer. Frank Vetrano, 2 goals. More on him in a minute. Goals 10 and 11 for him. Troy Terry gets his 14th, and John Gibson, 36 saves in net. In the loss for Tampa Bay, Jake Gensel scored his 21st of the year. After the game, after this game, I should say, the Ducks had won 4 of 5 with wins over the Oilers, Devils, Jets, and Lightning. So pretty impressive
about
there.
that? I mentioned that. Yeah, I said they
like, hey guys, Doug's not having any joy watching sports. What are we going to do about it?
No, I will tell you, the coaching change made a difference in St. Louis. It made a difference in Boston. It made a difference in Detroit. The Ducks doing this without a coaching change has been very impressive. They are 1 point below 500 on the season. They're 17, 18, and 4, which gives them 38 points through 39 games. That's unbelievable to me that they're on a pace anywhere close to 80 points in a season. I did not see that coming, but I love it. This recent play has been very sustainable in that they're playing solid defense. They seem to have found themselves as a team. They're getting more rush up ice. Everything's looking good, man. And the Lightning got swept on a California road trip, which is not. You come out west. We talked about it. The Kings, okay, best home team in the league, good team. But the Sharks and Ducks, you got to get a point out of one of those. And they got beaten regulation in all 3 games. That's a brutal West Coast swing for the Lightning to come out here and get no points.
Mentioned Frank Vetrano, 2 goals in this one. And before the game, it was announced that he was signed to a contract extension. Why don't you give us the details on that?
Well, it's a 3-year contract extension worth $18 million, I believe. I'm going to look it up here. Total. It's a weird contract in the sense that he's going to get $4.5 million a cap hit, but there's $9 million deferred payments. And it's a unique way that they structured this that I think California teams are going to emulate going forward. because once he's retired and no longer lives in California, he gets $9 million, 10 payments annually of $900,000 each, without the California tax system taking a big chunk out of it. So I think this is a genius move by the Ducks, that the Kings, the Sharks, I think the Angels, the Dodgers, I think we saw this a lot with the Shohei Ohtani, right? Where he's going to get the majority of his contract deferred. But this is a genius deal by the Ducks, in my opinion, because it allows them to give him what he's worth while also not killing them on the salary cap. It's only a $4.5 million cap hit for each of the next 3 years for a guy that's a potential 30-goal scorer. He had 30 goals last year. And I love the message this sent. He was a UFA after this year. I was expecting him to get traded by the deadline. I thought it's a matter of time before he gets traded because he's their most attractive piece. He's a goal scorer that plays a physical edge and is a veteran. Teams are going to want him. Them re-signing him sends such a great message to the locker room and the fan base that we're not giving up. We're actually going to retain talent. He wants to be here. Also, that's a great message that he's like, I see what they're building here and I want to be a part of it, as opposed to whenever you can trade me to a cup contender, let me know where my plane's heading, where to send my luggage. So this deal was fantastic. It was finger licking good, man. And more of this from Pat Verbeek. A great price, a ridiculously good price, in my opinion. And that it's just the structure of the deal, the retention of the talent, the message it sends to the locker room, all of it excellent.
Maple Leafs got by the Flyers 3-2 in overtime. Defenseman Morgan Rielly with the overtime game winner for Toronto. Matthew Nyes added his 15th of the season. Islanders outscored the Bruins in Boston 5-4 in overtime. Bo Horvat, 2 goals, numbers 11 and 12, including the overtime game winner, Andre Lee, 2 goals as well, 17 and 18 on the season for him. In the loss, David Pastrnak, 2 goals for Boston, numbers 16 and 17 on the season. Hurricanes got by the Penguins 4-3 in overtime. Sebastian Aho with the overtime game winner for Carolina, his 13th. Seth Jarvis had a pair of goals as well. For the Canes, Rangers down the Blackhawks 6-2. Philip Hedl scored twice, while Louis Domingue made 25 saves in net after being called up following the injury to Igor Shesterkin. And there you have it, the entire week in the NHL, scores, highlights, what happened, who scored, all that kind of good stuff. So that results in the standings. We're going to start in the Atlantic Division, and you've got your Toronto Maple Leafs are on top, 54 points, a record of 26, 13, and 2. That's 4 points up on the Florida Panthers. And so we had a switch at the top this week in the Atlantic Division. Toronto moving from second to first place this week. And that was the only movement in the standings in the Atlantic Division. Boston in third place with 45 points, Tampa Bay 42 points, Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Buffalo rounding out the Atlantic Division. Over in the Metropolitan Division, you've got the Washington Capitals, still same top 3 as we had a week ago. Washington, 55 points leading the division, 26, 10, and 3 the record. New Jersey is 4 points back in second place. Carolina 5 points back. Pittsburgh right now is in fourth place. The Blue Jackets have moved up to fifth. They were in eighth place at this time last week. They've got 40 points.
The Rangers were in the eighth last week. That's when we were saying, how are they going to fire?
Okay.
How are they going to fire them? But still, the Blue Jackets, yeah, the fact that they're a point out of a playoff spot in the second half of the season has got to be a thrilling part for them as their fans.
Philadelphia, 39 points. Rangers and Islanders both with 37 points. So why don't we look at the Eastern Conference playoff race right now? Again, top 3 in the Atlantic, Toronto, Florida, and Boston. Top 3 in the Metro, Washington, New Jersey, and Carolina. Your 2 wildcard teams right now, Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh. Lightning with 42 points, Pittsburgh 41. Then you've got Ottawa and Columbus, 1 point out. Canadians and Flyers are 2 points out of a wildcard spot.
Well, keep in mind the number to look at there is 36. Well, it's actually 37 now, as this was taken before the Ducks game went final. But 37 is the number of games the Lightning have played with 42 points. So they have games in hand 4 in hand on the Penguins and a game in hand on the Senators. So they're still in a better shape than it looks with the 42 points. That said, as we talked about last week, I think it is absolutely wide open for everybody but the Islanders and the Sabres. I don't believe the Islanders and Sabres have a chance to catch and pass everybody that is ahead of them and make the playoffs. I still think the Rangers have the talent, if they can figure it out and put it together, to make a run. The Red Wings are playing great, 6-4 in their last 10, and seem to be re-energized after the coaching change. They're only 3 points out of a playoff spot. If they can continue with games in hand on Pittsburgh, they can make a push. Philadelphia, I don't put anything past them. They've been overachieving for 2 years now. Montreal, ahead of where I thought they would be by far. Very impressive job by Marty St. Louis behind the bench and their roster to put themselves in this position. The Blue Jackets, I think, inspired by the tribute to Johnny Gaudreau and the addition of Sean Monahan, who's been great for them, and the health of Zach Werenski, got them in there. And if Linus Ullmark can get healthy, the Ottawa Senators are a playoff team this season, I believe. But if he's not healthy, it's up to anybody. So wide open for a lot of teams in the East, and it'll make a very fun second half for those teams.
All right, in the West, Central Division, Winnipeg still on top of the division with 56 points, a record of 27-12-2. But Minnesota has crawled back into this. They've only moved 2 points back of the Jets, who have faded a little bit. Haven't been able to maintain that red hot play for the entire season. And Minnesota without Kirill Kaprizov making a move as well. So that's impressive for them.
Very.
Dallas in third place with 49 points. Colorado also 49 points, but Dallas has 2 games in hand. St. Louis 42 points, Utah 41. You've got Nashville and Chicago rounding things out.
Still a lot of work for Nashville to do to get caught up there. I mean, look at that, 8 points behind Utah. So take it one team at a time. Catch Utah, pass them in the standings, then take a look at your next target.
In the Pacific, we talked about it. Vegas on top in the NHL with 57 points, record of 27-9-3 on the season. It's a 6-point lead on the Kings, who have 51 points. Edmonton also 51 points. LA does have a game in hand on the Oilers. Vancouver is in fourth place right now with 44 points. Calgary 43, and then Anaheim, Seattle, and San Jose rounding out the Pacific.
I mean, 57, they're the only team in the league that hasn't lost 10 games in regulation. I mean, just absolutely bonkers how good Vegas has been this year.
Top 3 in the Pacific again, Vegas, LA, Edmonton. Top 3 in the Central, Winnipeg, Minnesota, Dallas. Right now, your 2 wildcard teams are Colorado and Vancouver. Flames are 1 point out of a wildcard spot. St. Louis is 2 points out. Utah is 3 points out of a wildcard spot. Then you've got the Kraken, Ducks, and Predators down there.
Well, the Ducks actually, again, this was taken before the Ducks game went final. So they have jumped over the Kraken. They have 38 points through 39 games. And I'm saying the line is the Kraken. I'm saying the Kraken up 37. It's anybody's game to make the playoffs. And the fact that the Ducks are 6 points out of a playoff spot, there's a lot of work to be done, certainly, but they're at least within shouting distance of it. My God, that's amazing. But I think with Vancouver's struggles, we've just not seen Vancouver put together a stretch of good play. And I don't have confidence that we're going to see it at any point. All the teams ahead of them in the playoff standings, Colorado is going to make the playoffs. The top 3 teams in each division are going to make the playoffs. It's that last wildcard spot that I think is wide open between Vancouver, Calgary, St. Louis, Utah, Seattle, and Anaheim. If Nashville goes on a tear, they can get themselves back in it, but they have so much work to be done that I just don't see it. So I think there's a lot of teams that can still consider themselves in the playoff mix. And I think this gap between now and the Four Nations tournament is vital, because if you can make a push and get yourself in a decent position before you get the extended rest, that could be huge for your second half. Well, really last third of the season as we make a playoff push. And those could be some really exciting games.
Did want to mention real quick, the World Junior Championships wrapped up on Sunday. But we did have a USA-Canada matchup on New Year's Eve, which is always interesting. USA wins it 4-1, scored 3 power play goals. Then in the quarterfinals, Canada loses to Czechia 4-3 to be eliminated, and there is much consternation going on north of the border, giving up a power play goal with 39 seconds left did Canada to lose that and finish out of the medal games. USA would then beat Czechia 4-1 to advance the gold medal game, and then earlier on Sunday or late Sunday night, they beat Finland 4-3 in overtime. Teddy Stiga with the overtime game winner for the U.S. His only goal of the tournament was a memorable one for him. Czechia ended up winning the bronze with a shootout win over Sweden. So there was your World Junior Championship as the USA goes back-to-back at the World Juniors.
And it's just a reminder, you talk about the 4 teams that made the medal round there. USA, Finland, Sweden, those 3 are in the 4 nations. Canada not there and didn't medal last year, I don't believe. So there is much hand-wringing in Canada going on of what is happening here. This is our tournament, for God's sake. It's like the America's Cup. You know, we won it for so long, they named it after us, for goodness sake. So it's shocking that Canada did not finish in the medal round. But Czechia won the World Championships last year and won bronze in the juniors this year and are not included in the 4 nations tournament, which is kind of a snub on them and their hockey program of like, they're clearly one of the best hockey programs in the world, and they're not being included in this. But you have to include the 2 North American countries, of course. There's no reason you would not include Canada and the U.S. It's the Finland and Sweden. Why stop there? Why not make it a 6-nation tournament or something of that nature? But anyway, congratulations to Team USA, Team Finland, and Team Czechia on their medal performances.
And one real quick note, I heard this. I don't know any details about it. Maybe you do. I heard Jonathan Toews apparently is considering a comeback. I don't know where he is in all this. Is he skating? Is he thinking about next season? I assume he's not thinking about this season, but I did see that has been floated out there that former captain of the Blackhawks, multiple Stanley Cup winner Jonathan Toews apparently wants to give it another try after struggling with, he had like long COVID and maybe some respiratory issues and just didn't feel right. Apparently he's feeling better and would like to resume his career. Apparently
he is back skating, and I think he was invigorated by the old the song "One More Try." Do you remember that one, Eddie, from back in the 90s?
I'm afraid I do. Yeah.
You're afraid you do? Who sang that? Was it Jimmy Jam?
I don't like, I remember a lot of things, a lot of useless information. Unfortunately, I don't remember that, but I do remember that song.
Yeah. Anyway, a sappy love song back in the day of back in the 90s. But he is back skating, and believe it or not, I think it's for this season that he wants to come back.
Oh, that would be interesting.
And what team do you think would be already rumored as potential landing spot, Eddie?
Toronto?
That is correct.
Oh,
shocking that they would be listed among the potential landing spots. Now,
well, I believe he's a native Manitoban, so perhaps the Jets would be on his radar as well, going back home to finish his career, perhaps.
Yeah, and apparently there's teams that are interested. I'm sure every team is interested in at least seeing what he has to say.
Sure.
Let's talk. Let's have you come in for a skate.
And obviously he's a free agent. He can go wherever he wants.
Correct. So one team that I don't think he's considering is Chicago.
Yeah, you don't think so, huh?
I don't think so. I don't think he's interested. But you wonder if he would potentially rejoin his old line mate in Detroit. Patrick Kane and him reunited, and it feels so good.
Oh, another
who knows? But that's it. It's an interesting idea. I'll believe it when I see it, but it wouldn't be unheard of for a guy to kind of come out of semi-retirement and play. But it has been a while since we've seen somebody of this stature, an NHL 100 member, a member of a future Hall of Famer coming back to give it one more shot.
All right, that'll do it for our first period of our YouTube show and our first period of the podcast. If you enjoyed this, if you like what you saw, Well, we still have 2 more periods to go on the podcast. You can search Puck Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you are listening to the podcast, you've got the second and third periods coming up. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand, and we'll talk to you next Monday with another edition of the Puck Podcast.